one of the things I learned from, are we getting feedback?
I'm not on my side, no.
Okay, all right. I don't know if you can do anything about it, but I'm also hearing myself, which I guess is making me a little weird here. Anyhow, let's see if the thought will come back. Lost my thought. Listening to me just put me out of my head.
Uh-oh. Did that help at all?
One of the things that I did learn from Bill Tompkins was that the famous UFO flyover that happened on more than one night over Washington, D.C. in 1952. That's one of those memorable type things that's in the UFO history. He said those were the German UFOs that were flying over, that they were, that's where they originated from. And I had never heard that before, and I thought that was kind of interesting.
Well, yeah, it's just so many things about Antarctica. I mean, it seems to have been a hot spot the last couple of years for scientists for some reason. Not just because it's kind of like melting in certain areas. And, it's just, I think something is going on, or they found something or whatever. But it seems to be, a lot of famous people have gone there for, short notice for a trip to something.
Yeah, a lot of big shots have gone down there, no doubt about it. And you just wonder, a lot of them are older, and you go, now why in the world would they want to go down to Antarctica? Because it's not exactly a pleasant temperature, to say the least. And yet, people the age of Carrie and other ones have been down there. In fact, he's not called a pope, but he's essentially the pope of the Eastern Orthodox Church. And he went down there, and he's no young spring chicken. But, I want to share another thing with you. There's a brief quote that I've included in the article. It's from the New York Times from July 7th, 1939. And we've been taught that Admiral Byrd went down there to do exploration and things of that nature. But this is a brief quote from that article. President Roosevelt moved today to prevent possible extension of Germany's claim to Antarctica areas into the Western Hemisphere by directing Rear Admiral Richard E. Byrd to leave in October to territory within the sphere of influence of the Monroe Doctrine. This is 1939. Our president at that time was concerned about what was going on in Antarctica. That was a long time ago. Can you imagine all the developments since then?
Well, yeah, but what happened in the 40s? I mean, right after World War II, didn't Admiral Byrd go again up to Antarctica with a small fleet?
There's quite a few stories. I'm trying to sort stuff out. I probably will do something about him. Years ago, I read his original diary. There is another one, if it's credible, that he came out with later, and it has to do with going into the interior of, the Earth and having, some very interesting experiences. So I'm going to check it out a little bit further, and if there's enough credibility to it, then I'll probably post it in about maybe 2 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, I have read his diaries. I found two versions.
Did you read the second one? Right now I can't think of the name of it.
I don't even know the name of it. I know that one of the diaries, it talks about, a plane was flying, and it came up to these mountains, and when it went over the mountains, all of a sudden it was lush green trees and all this stuff, and little rivers and lake and all this stuff, and
right.
and people of sorts. And that kind of, makes you wonder. But then again, I don't know how they can still account for the military casualties they had on his little trip he was on. And
according to this most recent research I've done, they were down there supposedly at one point sent to, I don't know, like negotiate with the Nazis or with the Germans. And they were attacked by their UFOs, and there was a huge casualty.
Oh yeah, I mean, but
it was done by UFOs.
Yeah, even a mine sweeper or mine destroyer or something, if I remember right, was sunk. And I mean, how do you explain that when you come back? And he cut his trip really short. He was supposed to be there for months and months and months, and
he was supposed to be there for like 6 months. I think he actually lasted about 8 weeks or 2 months, but he came back and his whole fleet, or whatever you want to call it, was highly damaged.
Oh yeah, well that makes me wonder. What was there? I mean, if it was conventional Nazis that was still there, I don't think they would have had the capability to inflict that much damage, let alone, I don't know. I mean,
Well, go back to this whole thing about the reptilian consultants that started before the actual start of the war. And they, again, provided the technology and the wherewithal to build these spaceships.
Well, one thing, too, Hitler and all his, people in power right around with him, that they were really into the occult. So heavy that they were, sending people, scientists and military all over the world. Anytime they heard anything, paranormal, that could advance their whatever they were doing, they were open and probably more ripe if an alien race wanted to make contact, especially if it was an alien race that are really not friendly.
Mm-hmm.
And probably wanted to manipulate and use mankind. Hey, I hate to say it, the Nazi Party and Hitler and all those people in power were probably perfect candidates more than anybody.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And I mean, if they had to sell their soul, they sold their soul when they did all those prisoner work camps and where they sent the Jews off to die. I mean, they didn't have any morals left at that point. So, I mean, and what gets me, and tell me if I'm wrong, a couple things I'm really concerned about, Mary, a lot. And it bothers me when I have other guests on and we talk about UFOs. Some of these people I get on, they say, oh, aliens are friendly, warm, and basically fuzzy. They want to help mankind. Well, then
I'll abbreviate my response. BS.
Thank you. Because I look at it this way, that we eat, and I said this the other night on the show, we eat everything on this planet, including ourselves, depending on where you're at on this planet. I mean, we even eat our best friend, dog, cats, you name it, other humans. Now, we call ourselves civilized. Now, how about another race that is way, way more advanced than us?
I think you and I briefly talked before about a really evil race. I don't even know if they're reptilian. I think draconian or something. And they refer to this planet as the farm because that's where they get the people to eat, and they like, it's just like we as human beings will eat veal. It's supposed to be more delicate because it comes from a young calf or it comes from a young animal, and they prefer young humans. And that, according to one of our sources who has, cosmic type, high security top secret credentials, and he said that's part of the reason people or children are disappearing out of the forest.
Oh yeah, just not out of the forest. I mean, I also did back a few months ago, I really did some research, the amount of people, missing from the cities, suburbs, you name it. I mean, there's a lot of people that are going missing that they can't classify all the younger people as a runaway or the person who gets in their car and they find the car, but they never see the person again. I mean, some of the people might go camping and fall in a hole or fall off a cliff or whatever, but not as many as disappearing, and not as that many people that get in their car and go for a ride and or hitchhike or whatever and totally disappear. There's not that many serial killers out there to account for the amount of people that are going missing. And the government isn't really doing anything, especially in the national forest system. The police for the forest system, they spend very little time researching a missing person. Really, it's sad.
Yep, you're right. And, well, they probably don't have the resources to start with, and I'm sure they're told not to stir things up.
Oh, yeah. And, I will say this. Hawkins was right. He kept telling us for years, stop sending our address out. I mean, it's bad enough our radio waves go out, but to give people our address, our location, and our phone number and say, well, come and visit us. I mean, you don't know what could come and visit us.
And at the same time, we have to keep a balance on this because not all ETs are evil. But the evil ones seem to be getting a big grip on the earth right now.
Yeah, but you never know. Even the friendly ones, you don't know what their motives are. I mean, I do feel like the Sphinx is way before mankind because of the wear marks on the back of it. That just recently came out when they've really been analyzing that. And they said, well, that was caused by an ocean. Well, that ocean would have put it before man. So maybe we've been rebooted. Maybe, we are, aliens from Mars on this planet. Maybe we were brought here the same way you get cattle, right? And you put it on a ranch and you do the breeding to have more cattle for you can take it to the slaughterhouse.
And you get the Angus for the beef and you get the Jerseys for the milk, right?
I don't know. I don't know. And that, it kind of like makes me wonder about some people that get implanted or they say they've been implanted. That maybe they're just, monitoring us to, I don't know. It's so many answers and questions out there that never get,
satisfactorily answered, right?
Well, maybe, I hate to pardon and use the bad language, maybe shit is very close to happening. And that's why maybe the government is starting now to admit that there is UFOs. Stephen Bassett told me on the show, he feels less than a year from now, you're going to hear some major stuff about UFOs from the government. Now, I don't know, maybe he's just hoping, but maybe it might break.
My own theory is that all of us who are doing our own little part, either through websites or books or radio stations or TV programs, we are exposing all of this, and this is how people are learning about it. If we ever get disclosure from the government, it will have already been so blown out into the public arena that they can't deny it anymore. And anybody who is waiting around for the government to officially acknowledge all this is a fool.
I kind of agree with that. It's like when you're a little kid, right? And you're like 5 years old and you hear the ice cream man going down the street. So you go into your mom's purse and you sneak $1 out and, then especially with back then in the 50s. And then your mom goes to the grocery store and she goes, hey, I had to put the milk back because I didn't have enough money to buy all the groceries. And, hey, I bought myself and my friends a whole bunch of ice cream bars back then. But, the problem is you lie, right? And then you get trapped into another lie and then you get into another lie. And then you're trapped so far that you couldn't begin to tell the truth because you'd lose all credibility. So, hey, that's what's going on with our government.
That's another aspect of it. It really is. Nothing's really clear in just one reason, or it's just not that simple. So what you just said is is very much a part of the problem, or the reason why we don't have the government talking.
Well, it's funny, though. You get some of these other countries, that in Brazil and all these other countries, when they have an encounter of a UFO where an airline or a pilot sees it or the military sees it, they let the public know about it. And it's funny that we find out about it a lot later, but, it's no big deal when we hear about it from another country. I mean, they're not United States, so that country's lying. Canada's lying. The UK is lied. Russia is lying about, seeing and, reporting UFOs.
So where do we find the truth, right?
I don't know. Probably when one lands in the Safeway parking lot.
I think that we really should give careful consideration to the things that are being said by those who've had very important military positions who very late in life come forth and tell us information. And, Bill Tompkins is certainly one of those. And there have been so many